final set of the regular season. It's game number 1 for the battle for first seed. Camelot Kings, Highland Ravens starts right now.
You know, Trelly, in years of past, we've come to the end of phases, and our final days have been silly. We've had some matchups that have been taken maybe less seriously than others, but not this one. This one, hyper important. And it's simple. All of the opportunities for teams to move up and down in the standings, well, now it simplifies. The chat pretty split on it as well. 51% for the Highland Ravens, 49% for the Camelot Kings.
That's the closest I've seen.
That's the closest I've seen as well. Highland Ravens have the 1-game advantage, but it doesn't matter. Camelot Kings, you win this one. They've beaten the Ravens twice this phase, and they will be in sole possession of first place in the Order Division. Remember what's important there. First place in both the divisions. They skip playoffs in a couple weeks. They go right to Masters as one of the top couple of seeds. And you're able to have an easier path through to the finals at that event. So there is a lot to play for here. Not only another weekend of having to play games, but an extra weekend of practice for the other squad and maybe a break depending on how your team is feeling. And I think 51-49 maybe is just about right for these two teams.
I'd say so. I mean, if you saw the picks and bans after watching the previous set, you might be giving a little bit more weight towards the Camelot King just because of Baskin's performance on this Vamana. Captain Twig has also been lights out on this pick. But the Highland Ravens news was coming, right? They had to know that Vamana was a possibility to try and deal with. And they've got some decent answers, most of which is just Ven. I mean, Ven is my answer in most cases because of the amount of damage Zeus can do.
Well, Vamana hasn't been completely unstoppable. I mean, it's been very good. Don't get me wrong. I want to make sure that's out there. Vamana has been very, very good across the league. Has not been an automatic win button in the same way that it was for Baskin in just the previous game.
Definitely not.
But has been a great advantage for teams to have. And Captain Twig feels like, some picks here or there just haven't quite been working out where the Vamana has been. It's been the answer for Captain Twig when sets go a bit sideways. With that, I levy a few higher expectations against Captain Twig here in game number 1. You then maybe raise some expectations around Ven and some hopes to see him deal with this Vamana.
Yep.
But really the composition of the Highland Ravens, Trelly, you get this Aphrodite and Hurrywin, one of the players in the league, I think who's been playing these mage supports pretty well. Got some options to link up to. Scream might be it later on. Give this Bakasura the avenue to roll forward. He might be doing the same exact thing that the Vamana's doing, just on the other side of the fight.
I would think Hurrywin has one job in this game, and it is get to Ven and just be kissed to him for the rest of the game. Again, I say Ven has to deal with Captain Twig. The same is true for the Camelot Kings. Vamana just solos Zeus at any given moment of the game when you get your build online, but that's sort of the issue. You're not in a 1v1 versus Zeus. Your team is there, and he does the AoE damage to make sure that he stays alive. He peels himself with Lightning Storm. That's the way Ven likes to play. His KD on this character has always been disgusting because he's able to stay safe in the backline, and his frontliners can facilitate that play style. If Captain Twig's able to find him by himself in the jungle, yeah, that's going to be a quick fight. But if you got the peel, if you have Undying Love from Hurrywin on top of a Shell, on top of a Wing Shard, that's where things get a little bit dodgy. And remember, we did just watch a solo lane Vamana, different from carry. Full damage, maybe a Foul Links has been built into the build, but it's been a lot of attack speed. Crit sort of fell out of the meta. It's just full on as much attack speed and movement speed as you can.
Yep.
You die a lot faster when you're building that sort of way. So I think Barracuda might also have something to do with trying to burn through this Vamana.
Well, the Jingwei, as the desk talked about, the most played player god combination in Smite Pro League history, 120-something games. I wonder if the guy knows how to play this pick or not, Really raises the question in my mind. I have some confidence that he can. But Jingwei hasn't necessarily been the pick in the current meta, but certainly an option if crit is on the mind of any of the players. Maybe a gank is on the mind of Scream here. Genetics slightly low on mana. Level 5 is hit by this Bakasura. He will slither on into lane undetected. Blinks forward. Gets his ultimate down onto Genetics, and Genetics left running with no mana, and that's a first blood for the Highland Ravens here in Game 1, and it goes to Barracuda.
That's as easy as it gets. I mean, a rare misplay there from the Camelot Kings. No ward vision on the left side of the map. Genetics out of mana entirely, and still steps forward to try and clear the wave. Because of that, You give not only an assist over to Hurrywin and Scream, but you give first blood over to the Jing Wei. That pretty much guarantees that Bear's going to be just fine going even in lane, saying, hey, I'm not going to step up. I'm going to sit underneath my tower, look for aggressive invades when I can, but so safe on this Jing Wei. They're probably not under too much pressure, especially. I can't imagine a Vamana gank ever going well, right? You blink in, you try and hit the slow. Here's another Vamana gank, but Ven does have the Aegis. That should be enough. No way this dive works.
We're tower diving, and it works in so far as a one-for-one trade, but it might get worse. Scream tossed aside by Home Sweet Home. And that'll keep the trade at 1-for-1. I guess it worked, right? You got a kill on the Ven, but you traded out your jungle.
Yeah, I didn't account for Big Man Tings being clutch, because Big Man Tings got the kill. He confirmed it. Twig was never confirming that kill. There was no way that he had the dive. It was always going to be a trade at the very least, because Vamana just, again, with this build, you don't have the tank stat to try and survive. But Tings has good damage, and Ven, maybe Aegis a little bit early. Probably could have saved it for the actual tower dive portion of that gank. But either way, the Baba Yaga's going to be a threat. And I talked about the Vamana dealing with Zeus. Baba Yaga's got some good range, certainly can as well. It's just Home Sweet Home. That's a good answer to it. In Lightning Storm, it's a large target that cannot Aegis, and Scream knows.
Ooh.
Twig's got no ultimate.
That's right, Twig, no ult, and that means a stun from Haddix. And this was read by the Highland Ravens so well. Scream and Haddix both stole the blue buff while Captain Twig rotated all the way through the jungle to the other blue buff. And man, this side of the jungle now just being stolen away from Captain Twig. The early portion of this game has gotten away from the Camelot Kings just a bit. Remember, the one kill they've got was a trade over in mid. Other than that, it's been Scream all over the map. A couple kills on right, an assist or two over on left. They've built up a decent little lead, one-level lead for Scream in the jungle on this Bakasura, who's off to a great start.
Certainly is. Quick farm. It's the name of the game here for the Baka. You can see that, Captain Twig's trying to keep up with that farm. He is also going the Golden Blade. It just takes a bit. When you get cut out twice now, once of your own accord, you're diving a tower. The second time, Screamer said, hey, wait, this guy just ulted, right? All right, cool. Show up if you can. And Haddix makes a great rotation, finds the stun. A little bit of aggression towards Barracuda, but Captain Twig's more so looking for farm. Again, with airstrike available, just doesn't seem worth your while to try and gank this Jing Wei. But Genetics and Yarkor have plenty of healing, plenty of sustain, and they are going to put some pressure just towards duo lane. See what they can do towards this Gold Fury sometime soon. I like the aggression, though, especially since, Scream has been in the right place at the right time. He just catches out Twig. He's got some ward vision down. He's got 2 wards in hand, so definitely trying to find 1v1s, isolated 1v1s in the jungle. That is where Baka excels in the early game. The slow, the cripple, the attack speed. All good things. Did step over a ward, though, so the Camelot Kings know exactly where Scream is for the time being, and they're not going to step towards that shield buff.
Highland Ravens able to keep this pace. It'll be something that has been happening to the Camelot Kings a decent bit over the last few weeks. Remember the Kings? And the Ravens early in this phase, but it was really the Kings who were the front runners for a little while. They were undefeated alongside the Oni Warriors for a good bit of time. Started to drop a set or two. Ravens started to add a set or two, and it's been a lot of this for the Highland Ravens. A lot of Scream and a lot of killing, and another for the Highland Ravens, a second for the jungler. And it was so much damage onto a second, Yark had to get onto his horse and gallop away. Everywhere Scream goes turns to kills here in game 1.
Yeah, but now Scream trying to go for a green buff in vain. Tings does have a decent steal attempt, but won't be able to outconfirm eat minion. Now let's see the DPS towards this Fury. It looks like Yark's the only one who could walk up, and even he does not want to step towards that Fury. So the Highland Ravens 4-1 and a pre-10-minute Gold Fury in their favor.
Speedy.
All off the back of this aggression from Scream. That doesn't happen unless he, number 1, forces the ultimate from Yark, or 2, finds another gank on the Genetics. Looks like Ven might lose his red buff for the process, but I think that's a trade he's willing to take.
Yeah, I'm sure he does every day of the week. That red buff will bring Captain Twig up to level 9. Other than that, he'd been a level behind Scream. Suppose Twig's best option is just try to farm up as best as he can right now. He's been outpaced by this Bakasura. Luckily over in mid, and this is what's happened a bit for the Camelot Kings recently. Big Man Tings still doing just fine, keeping pace in farm, has the kill. The Baba Yaga will stack things up quite nicely. The Charon's coin feels like it hasn't been built much, maybe in slower fighting games, but has still seen decent bit of play over in mid. Camelot Kings, they got to be on high alert now. Ward coverage over on the purple buff side of the Ravens jungle. Opportunities, though, for Scream to slither his way back on over to left. Maybe if Genetics is overextended.
Certainly does. Interesting build here from Hurrywin. The Cannoneers, curious. That's all well and good. We've seen that time and time again. It's going to help you with the clear, but into the Stone of Binding. Looks like it wants to do a little bit more damage here on the Aphrodite. Just with that crowd control, that extra shred. Can't help out, especially when your sole purpose as a support is to just enhance your team. That is what Afro provides. You'll be a little bit less tanky, but so far, I don't think Hurrywin's been the target of any sort of aggression here from the Camelot Kings. Maybe from Genetics, these supports just trading blows, but not really looking to dive the Afro anytime soon. And Ven has been largely left alone. Not something I expected. This duo lane sticking around, Hurrywin and Bara, sort of attached at the hip. I expected this to translate into a Ven and Hurry show, which it looks like it's going to now since the Pyromancer is available. And here comes a teleport and Haddix. He's going to join the party. This is a Pyromancer that the Highland Ravens want.
Whoa, that's a blink from Scream, but good damage traded back by Big Man Tings. How much can Haddix zone? Genetics will lose half of his HP on his way into the fight. Haddix loses a bit, but so does Scream. Now it's been turned around onto Variety, and Variety burned through. Lightning Storm plus Haddix plus Scream. That's an equation for a kill for the Highland Ravens, and seemingly a Pyromancer as well. That's the first Pyro of the game in both neutral objectives in the first 10 minutes, and another kill to the Highland Ravens.
Yep, Haddix was a good menace there, just zoning, making sure that the Camelot Kings had to back up, not to mention the Zeus damage that we've talked so much about. This is a pick that really only Ven is playing, but I guess he's the only one who's able to pilot it like this. Stay safe. Stay in a good position, drop that Lightning Storm, and get great detonate value. Yarkor didn't rotate out of lane. He started pushing over on the left side of the map, which Barracuda, of course, tried to fly over and help with the Pyro. So because of that, Tier 1 tower almost drops down. But you don't get gold for almost, Dave. And the Highland Ravens do end up pushing down the Tier 1 over on right. This is a breakneck pace. Very quick. An objective spawns in. The Ravens are there. They have an opportunity to find aggression. They're going to look for it, especially right before an objective gets pulled. And all the while, Primal Fury is about to spawn back in. I mean, there's not going to be any breathing room here for the Camelot Kings. If they just want to stop and farm, they're going to be giving up another Fury in favor of the Highland Ravens here shortly.
I mean, this is the type of pace that the Oni Warriors have been setting. Baron Genetics will trade some damage, but the healing from Genetics, call it slight advantage to the Camelot Kings support. Yark over here on the left side, but again, hard-pressed to really gank successfully at Jingwei. It would be a great tower to trade back for the Kings. Anything to get a bit of extra gold spooled up for your team in a pace of match that has totally gone the other direction from you. And in a pace of match that only a couple of teams have really been able to set so far here in Season 10 of the Smite Pro League. Primal Fury spawns up. Highland Ravens, you imagine they'll be right on time. You imagine Scream will be leading the charge, as he has. Blink is up in 5 seconds. Might not need it because he's got an ult right for Genetics, but this time, not the support of the team. Maybe a bit of team fight utility now off the board.
Because the rotation came through, Captain Twig was enough of a threat to make sure Scream couldn't just free cast there onto Genetics, and it might be the Camelot Kings who feel like they can step forward here. They get one ultimate down for none, and now it looks like Haddix is still going to blink forward?
This King Arthur, it's looked good in the right hands this year, and it's starting off the fight for the Highland Ravens. That said, a Stygian Torment brings the King Arthur right back, and there's so much CC, but not enough. Haddix will live on the other side of the fight, and a Lightning Storm from Ven forces all the healing, all the sustain from Genetics. Teams trading out damage, but remain 5v5.
Still a threat, though. Grouping up with a Chain Lightning like that is going to be scary, even if you get near the theory. There's so much damage coming from Venenu that it looks like the Camelot Kings, despite getting some good trades and some health bars, they're not going to be able to step forward for this Fury. They're going to have to stay back, and it's actually the Ravens who want to siege forward. Variety was able to reset. He's full HP now, and he jumps backwards. He's going to be able to get Barracuda.
Well, Scream has gone to farm the jungle instead of stick with his team and fight. Barracuda left alone as his dual lane partner, Hurrywind, desperately clinging to life. Undying Love slows down the engagement, but watch out, Scream on the other side of this Fury Pit might have an opening into one of these low health carries. Could be a big moment for the Highland Ravens jungler, but it's the Kings jungler trying to continue the fight. Scream has joined the back line, but Captain Twig dashes away once more. Variety leaps away yet again, but Ven's got Detonate, and you can't dodge that. And there's still rotation potential. Yark, solo. Does Haddix have range? Of course he does. Then there's a Primal Fury awaiting the Ravens.
Haddix hits those. He cannot miss. Lightning Storm goes down, and the Highland Ravens are able to grab the Primal Fury after a massive fight. I mean, it took a while, and of course the Camelot Kings were able to find some success, but not enough. I thought Scream rotating over to the right, trying to push the tower, may have been the end there for the Highland Ravens' attempt at grabbing that objective. But it looks like the Ravens were able to stall long enough. Haddix had some great CC, and Scream was able to rotate back into that fight, get 2 regurgitates off, and it was the second one that ends up counting. Ven is able to pick up 1 kill, and Haddix on the second. And now Pyromancer's back up. It's just it's relentless.
And this is what the Kings of old have done to their opponents, where it's every single objective they're on time. Now, the Kings showed up for this last Primal Fury. That really drew it out just a bit longer, but the Highland Ravens really Scream's pathing. I wondered if Barracuda dying early in that fight was going to be costly, and it was for Barracuda, was not for the rest of the Highland Ravens. Kings now have decisions to be made. You're 5,000 gold down at 15 minutes. Are you going to fight over a pyro? Is it worth it if you lose another team fight? Just how out of control could this game get? The Bakasura, the backline dive for one of these 2 junglers already online. The other has fallen 2 levels behind. But Bladed Boomerang, nice item completion for Captain Twig and a little power spike. 2 runic bombs in the back pocket of the Ravens. Call it 2K burst damage on the next big objective.
Seems like we might finally have some breathing room here to discuss just what a breakneck pace. Again, the Highland Ravens have been able to set here. The Camelot Kings show up. They are not just rolling over and giving over objectives like we've seen time and time again. They have been able to try and fight. The sustain that Genetics is providing has been very impactful of just keeping the Camelot Kings around with a low health bar. That is interesting. Scream always goes tier 2 Odibo. Rarely finishes it. That is something that he does not like to do often. Big man Tings, the detonate.
Boop.
Goodbye. Venenu is a menace on this Zeus. Just cannot stop. And that's a Fire Giant call for the Highland Ravens.
That is turtleneck diff for the Highland Ravens. 3-1-2 on the Zeus. And a Fire Giant pull hand delivered to the rest of his team. Now Barracuda's on left. He's got Captain Twig shoving down a tier 2 tower. And so it's steal potential, and that's it for the Camelot Kings. This is a moment where this game either gets delayed or the Highland Ravens fully grasp control. Fire Giants low and confirmed by the Ravens. 1 runic bomb used and 1 FG taken. You've lost a tier 2 over on left. You might add a kill on a Variety. You will, and it's a 4th for Ven. It's an easy, clear, worth it play for the Highland Ravens.
Yep, the Camelot Kings grab the tier 2 over on left. Barracuda does not want to forfeit his life or his Fire Giant buff to try and defend that tower. But now the Highland Ravens will be able to grab one of their own as Barra can push up mid and try and get some extra farm. He's fallen a bit behind, sitting over in that lane, only level 14. In comparison to Yark, doesn't look too bad, but in comparison to his own team, Scream and Van, 17 here. Plenty of farm, only 17 minutes into the game. So Bear might want to split push for a bit. He's going to group up with the squad. Probably knock the last bit of towers down in mid and on the left side of the map. And despite the fact that the Ravens are very much ahead and have been controlling the pace of this game, Phoenixes still look scary. I mean, Hurrywind is not that tanky. Haddix wants to be able to blink in, so he doesn't want to be put in combat until the Phoenix Siege begins. So I'm thinking towers and Oni Fury, probably on the minds here of the Highland Ravens. The question then becomes, are the Camelot Kings going to group up and defend? Well, I'd watch their positioning. They're on the opposite side of the map.
Yep, they're going to just try to get the towers that they can manage and defend maybe a Phoenix here in just a moment. You got 1 runic bomb still. If you're the Ravens, you're going to have another opportunity for one in about a minute and a half. Man, there's just been no great answer for this Aphrodite-Zeus combo. Feels like Scream has been just fine, but I guess we're having a conversation, Trelly, around Zeus, and this has been Zeus of past. Might be another one here for the Highland Ravens. Or tower diving Captain Twig. That's one way to deal with the Vamana. Third death of the game, and now 3 levels behind for Captain Twig. A simple dive for Scream and Haddix. Might actually result in a bit more than just the tier 2 in mid. No longer a jungler for 30 seconds. Looks like Runic Bomb was used and maybe dealt with by the Kings. So now maybe reset for the Highland Ravens. Back to the Oni Fury.
It's hard to believe that that is the same god, that Vamana we just watched. That,
you know?
I mean, it's just the...
I'm not used to seeing the
dual-
Vamana thing done to the Vamana.
The
right?
duality of Vamana is, hey, if you're ahead, you look real good. If you're behind, you are just a bigger target that dies a little bit slower than anyone else. Scream doesn't care if you use Colossal Fury as long as Haddix is there with the CC. I mean, he's got the Kin size, the Odysseus bow, probably going to go back and upgrade a starter item here. This Bach is a menace. It doesn't look like he's going to stop anytime soon. You said it. Ven is kissed, or Hurrywin is kissed to Ven and no one else. This Zeus is the protector, and you stick around him, say, hey, we're going to make sure that you do all the damage. All the while, Scream says, I don't need any help. I'm 3-0.
Yep.
I'm not dying anytime soon. I've got my relics available. Who's gonna fight him? I don't know. There isn't an answer at the moment. Big Man Tings has some solid burst, but that's from a distance. You let Baka close that gap, and he doesn't want to be involved in that 1v1 as much as anyone else.
I mean, Twig is woefully far behind 3 levels. Variety is as well, level 16. Even behind Hurrywin, both those players at level 17 on the Aphrodite. Things have gotten out of hand here in Game 1, but also gotten out of hand a bit in Phase 1 for the Camelot Kings. A team that decimated every opponent they faced all throughout the Smite World Championship. Looked good during the kickoff tournament, looked great during the early portion of Phase 1. Just hasn't been able to find that momentum here recently. 20-minute mark and second Fire Giant of the game now on the table. Runic Bomb is there for the Highland Ravens. Camelot Kings, I think, hard-pressed to step out and defend this. Much easier to stand around one of your Phoenixes and see if you can defend things from there. At least there's no looming threat of Scream
I was going to say,
suddenly blinking on you and regurgitating.
Twig is wild for this.
The rest of the team is starting to move forward. That's probably why Scream...
Yeah, Scream recognizes there's no... Like, after what I just did to you, someone's in the jungle. Like, there's no way Captain Twig's this confident.
They're not going to be at Fire Giant because look at the ward coverage for the Highland Ravens.
Yep.
The entirety of the jungle, all the way back to the Phoenix line, maybe just by the red buff is not covered, but you know the Kings aren't there. Got to be somewhere over on left. And smart from Scream just to delay the wave and maybe defend against a potential Phoenix siege from the Kings while this Fire Giant goes down. But it'll be second FG of the game for the Highland Ravens. They've now got full duration, full gold spent, and a lot of time to work down the birds.
They certainly do. To the right side of the map they go. I was going to say this would be interesting. Not the Phoenix most teams tend to go for first, and the Highland Ravens also will not. They're going to head back to base, push up left. Definitely the smartest pick in that regard. Barracuda, though. He went with the Odie bow as well. I was curious. Yeah, he's just going to go full shred, so not even going to throw a crit item in at the end of the build. He just wants to be safe on the Jingwei and then provide that amount of shred that we know from these typical ADC builds that are currently in the meta. So it's going to be difficult to do a 5-5 split here if you're just trying to fight in that left side of the map. I do think that Scream and Haddix probably take it up mid and feel a lot more confident in that 2v2. Like, there's no way Captain Twig's by himself, but maybe you send Captain Twig in Variety and you just let Big Man Tings try and clear out the wave over on the left side of the map. The Highland Ravens are doing a great job of, number one, checking their corners, making sure no ambush is set up for them, which of course not. The Camelot Kings are not going to leave Phoenix. But number two, keeping every single wave pushed up just to make sure that they've got avenues to go in on any one of these lanes. I mean, all three are a possibility. It's a 3-1-1 for now, but let's be honest, Haddix isn't getting any Phoenix anytime soon, so Scream's going to group up mid and see what they can get accomplished in a 3-2.
Twig starting to catch up in experience, only one level behind Scream now. Does not have the starter item upgrade, but does have the tier 2 item 6 slotted. Call it a couple thousand gold behind, which is impactful. Starter items feel great to get there. Where's the blink in? Here it is, and it's Haddix, but Haddix has only been met with damage. Runic Bomb looks like it got
God.
the left Phoenix down. Oh my God, is that Ven? It sure is. And in one fell swoop, he's deleted the carries. The Aegis is not even used, and the Ravens evaporate the Camelot Kings. The left side Phoenix and they'll take game 1.
Yeah, if you were curious, Big Man Tings died in the air. The trucker horn got pulled right when he tried to blast off away. Didn't even have time to use his ultimate or touch the ground.
They retain first seed in the Order Division and a bye straight to Masters. Camelot Kings with the win would send us to a game 3 with the same on the line. Now there's a slight increase in percentage from chat. It's 51-49 going into game 1. 54-46 though, Trelly. Going into game number 2 here with some forced composition changes for the Highland Ravens from the Camelot Kings.
And that's going to be a big difference maker. It's not like Morgan Le Fay has that same level of AoE that the Zeus had. You don't have an Aphrodite kissed you in this case. You don't have that immunity, but Captain Twig doesn't have the Vamana that can just stomp away. This time he's on the Nemesis, which I think is a good target to try and deal with Hurrywind. A lot of slows that Hell doesn't want to deal with. As well as Variety on the tier, who I've been waiting for the influx of tier. I think these buffs did do some great things. But Variety's been going to the tier, and I haven't had that pop-off performance that I've been wanting to see from him. So I am curious as to how well this pick is able to do later on in the game, because in a matchup versus King Arthur, I can tell you it's miserable. It is not fun. He has so much knock-up immunity, a cripple to deal with your fearlesses. He's just going to out-clear you, out-pressure you. And Barracuda takes a lot of damage here.
Goodness.
What's he even trading these autos for? It's
Whoa.
back up.
Whoa, Barra and Hurry, they were late to lane. Genetics and Yark triple pulled their buffs. Barracuda and Hurry did the back camps, the green, and then over to purple, and just took them a little bit longer to get over into lane. So that small bit of lane pressure built up into nearly a kill onto Barracuda from Genetics and Yark. Got to imagine Umoja Cern feeling okay over in Duo Twigs. Level behind, but right on top of it. We'll dash away here. Nemesis Trelly, far from the overwhelming meta jungler here in Season 10, but still a very viable fallback for a lot of the junglers in the SPL.
Certainly is. Is going to have some decent mid pressure as well. Scream's been able to just stay relatively healed up just by able to, eat minion, jump away, sort of repeat. I think Ven's been providing good poke, but Big Man Tings knows, hey, at level 5, this matchup's going to change a bit. Agni, not the best clear early on. You really do need access to that ult, and once you get 3 meteors, then you're going to start pumping out damage numbers and clearing from a distance. The poke of Agni is very strong, but here comes Captain Twig. I was going to say, should be caught out. I mean, it should be at the very least called out from mid, saying, hey, we got no eyes on Nemesis. Be careful left. Don't fight for shield buff. And it seems like the Highland Ravens knew, at least a little bit, as they decided to retreat. Man, Barrett can't catch a break. Every time we go over this lane, it seems like he's getting stunned. He already beads. That's not going to be up for another minute and a half or so. Or he's going to have to watch his positioning, especially if Captain Twig does decide to come back.
Good news. Hurrywind is on the hell. So sustain an option for Barracuda over here in duo. Couple health potions left as well. Actually, a little better in the potion department than Genetics and Yark are. So sustain from Hurrywind will maybe make life a little bit less uncomfortable for Barracuda. Now, so much of the pace in Game 1, Trelly, was set by this Bakasura. Really, Genetics was not having an easy time over in lane. Scream put plenty of emphasis over towards duo. Do you see similar opportunities for Bakasura in the first 10 minutes of Game 2?
Similar. I don't think it comes as easy. You don't have that immobile support over in duo lane to just gank for free. Genetics has the Riptides and a horrific emblem. Those sort of things can make Baka's time a bit more difficult. But you do have your option to try and gank Variety, and I think that is somewhere that Scream might be looking towards. Once the ultimate comes through, once that Lawbringer becomes available, you got to get out of jail free card. But if it can be forced by Haddix, or if you're able to take him up with your ultimate and Scream just is there on landing to follow up, sort of like a Najah ult in that sense, then we could see some pressure over towards solo lane, and that is where Scream is for now. But Haddix has to hit that ultimate if they're going to be going for this gank, and it looks like Scream doesn't want to try and dive a tower, just going to go for the cooldown buff, and Variety will be just fine for now. Did think it was an opportunity, though, for some ganks.
Still could be. Scream's got Blink.
Oh, he's going for it.
Maybe just waiting for these backs to get channeled. Blink in, ult,
Wow.
and 2 tower shots. But Scream will walk away with first blood, and he will walk away. No death for the Highland Ravens jungler on his tower dive, and Variety took too much poke and hands 500 gold and a lead over to Scream.
I'm curious as to what Variety thought the play was there, because he did know it was coming. He blinked the blink, right? That was the obvious time. But I think he wanted to ult after, and he may have gotten stuck. Or he's like, hey, if I can just fearless him under tower, then I can find a kill. But it was just too much damage and didn't quite have the option to use that lob ringer. So he still has the ultimate available. First blood goes the way of Scream. And now Haddox is going to be looking just fine in that lane, as you would expect again. King Arthur does get the better end of tier all the time. This is just so annoying to try and lane up against a King Arthur as a tier. You're playing just to get your farm and sort of rotate away.
Goodness.
But you're just going to be getting bullied already. Variety comes back to lane. Haddox says, welcome back. Here's half your HP.
Yep, Haddox. Bluestone Glad Shield. There was a time where this was it. You'd see Bluestone Glad Shield King Arthur. Haddox thinking like now, still the time. Variety with Blink instead of Teleport. Got to walk back to lane. Twig a level behind Scream already. A blue buff will be up here shortly. Imagine this is just a trade that, yeah, the Island Ravens are fine with.
Oh,
Haddox has
triple.
lane pressure. Haddox has a knock-up, and Scream's got his second kill. Twig thought he might be able to defend, but Variety's locked under tower. The Island Ravens have just shoved pressure on right. Now get a blue buff and a second kill for their jungler.
Yep, Captain Twig thought he was safe. Haddox had the cutoff. Cripple into the knock-up, into the damage from Scream. 2-0 for the Bakasura. Right lane is done. I mean, it's solo just seems uninhabitable at this point for the Camelot Kings. Captain Twig, he might come up for some blue buff XP, but there's no way you're fighting around Variety, and there's also no way you're killing Haddox. Not anytime soon anyways. Maybe if Big Bang Tings makes a rotation, the magical defense is lacking in this King Arthur build and probably will be for a bit. But it doesn't seem like Agni wants to get behind. I mean, as long as Ven's in lane, Tings is going to miss out on farm if he decides to rotate over to solo. So just try and play through your Agni later on. And again, Captain Twig's going to have to spend less and less time on the right side of the map. But anytime Scream can get over here, could be an opportunity to try and fight. Captain Twig is here as well. But it looks like they just rotated around each other and didn't even see.
Yeah, well, there's ward coverage for the Highland Ravens, so Captain Twig was spotted out on left. Maybe just over a ward with Scream. A second ago, already Twig is 3 levels behind Scream. Hits level 7 as I'm finishing my sentence, so call it 2, but
not a good look.
No, it's tough. The end of game 1, he was 3-4 levels behind. Scream with a couple kills and just a faster farm rate on top of that. XP per minute, a pretty good indicator there. 200 or so ahead of Captain Twig is Scream. Now, Big Man Ting's been farming things up nicely. He's about 100 or so ahead of Ven for a 1-level lead. Haddox shoved aside by Variety. Simply does not matter. And an ultimate out of Barracuda sets up another gank from Scream, who's on a killing spree. And Variety has ult, but is he going to get into it? He's stunned and tossed aside. Scream doesn't have blink and should be the end of it. Man, Captain Twig had an opening. That door was shut before it really started over on right.
Yeah, really getting punished for starting this blink. I mean, if Twig has beads, I'm pretty sure both of those deaths so far would have been avoidable if he was able to use them during the cripples or the knockups or just about any bit of the CC here for Scream and Haddox. Because he's got that blink, has not been able to use it aggressively, has not been able to actually use that blink and say, hey, I'm going in. And certainly hasn't been able to use it defensively. Caught out twice now for this Nemesis. 3-0 in favor of Scream. Big Man Ting started to rotate over, but the second the lights turned off, he turned around and said, good luck, boys. I'm going back to lane. I don't want to deal with this. I'm level 11, the highest in the game, and I hopefully will be able to carry you later on. That's sort of the Camelot Kings mindset here. They're still sitting around in duo. The left side of the map looks fine. I mean, relatively even, and Tings is ahead, but it really is just solo and mostly jungle Scream. Put on a clinic of how to farm effectively and find opportune times for yourself, but inopportune times for the Camelot Kings to go in.
I was looking for Twig on the net worth charts. You have to scan a little while to find him. He's down at the bottom. Just ahead of Yark. Man, what happened there? The dual lane, I mean, it's only 100 difference from Barracuda, so I'm not going to make too much out of that, but top net worth, that's Scream, 6K. Bottom net worth, 1.5K behind, that's Captain Twig, and that's essentially your gold lead. Highland Ravens jungler hits a big power spike as well. Chin size finished.
Oh my goodness, that's so early.
Yeah. Variety Little healing done, but little healing done is about all that Variety can hope for. Think back to the last couple games as well, where it just feels like the Kings have been out-pressured over on right. Captain Twig, Variety have just not had a good last few weeks. And the Ravens realizing that's an opportunity to fight and find an advantage here. Things have been quiet over on the left and mid side of the map. Complete mirrored levels and experience in gold, though, between Scream, Twig, Variety, and Haddix. Level or 2 between both. This Bakasura immediately becomes a threat again, Trelly. And yes, there's no Aphrodite, but it wasn't linked with the Aphrodite all that often in the first game.
Has not been leaving duo lane either, either one of these teams. I mean, it just seems like 2v2 is been the call. It would be an opportune time for Hurrywin to join Ven in mid, but just let those mages solo farm has been the call. That's the reason we see, both members of the duo lane on both squads. Just at the bottom of the net worth chart, Scream. It's going to blink as someone gets stunned out. But Genetics doesn't have an ultimate. It doesn't want to use it in this case. It doesn't have an angle to try and find the River's Rebuke. So Scream will be just fine. But it just seems strange to me how long Hurrywin and Genetics have decided to sit around in duo. I suppose it's just because mages are a bit stronger. You want to try and let them free farm. Let Tings and Ven get their itemization online. And then you let your presence be known in mid. Look towards Furies, that sort of thing. But remember, it was the Highland Ravens that were on spawn, ready for the Pyromancer. They pulled an early gold, went to Pyro, and just kept that train going until the end of the game. And it looks like Pyromancer about to touch down. Haddix has made his rotation over. The Gold Fury started up. It's Genetics and Yark trying to step forward.
Well, it's going to be down before the Camelot Kings can really contest it. Haddix zones with an ultimate, and the Highland Ravens get the Gold Fury. Variety was rotating towards the left. But there's not going to be a fight here by the time the tier arrives. Luckily for Variety, tower pushing the other direction, so not losing minions to his own tower, but Contagion now added for Haddix. Limit some of the healing that Variety, Genetics are going to be doing in these fights. Highland Ravens from Gold Fury over to Pyromancer. Maybe a conversation to be had by the Camelot Kings. Variety will ult in. Darkest of Nights tossed out by Barracuda. The Pyromancer picked up and dropped on the way out from the Camelot Kings. So a couple ults exchanged one side or another, but no fight to be had.
Yep, and remember, Scream is 3-0, meaning the entirety of the lead is essentially sitting in Baka's hands. Genetics gets knocked up the Riptide, just not enough.
Yeah, that feels
and
bad.
And he's going to fall down. River's Rebuke is going to give no sort of value, but Variety comes in, I guess, to just do a little bit of damage. There's no peel. Everyone's gone. The Highland Ravens are just fine with that trade. Finally, someone besides Scream gets a kill, and that's what I was going to say. If Baka was able to get shut down, massive for the Camelot Kings. But Scream's away from his team right now. He's getting tier 1 towers over on right. He doesn't even have to fight.
Now, Trelly, I don't want to underplay the 2 assists that Barracuda has in this game. Think about the Darkest of Nights from the other side of the map.
Wow.
It's been shutting out the lights, and he's played his part.
You are not wrong. And
he's kicking back, and he's collecting checks that Scream is writing. I'll add assists for free every day of the week. And a Pyromancer for the Highland Ravens. 4,000 gold at 12 minutes. That's right about where we were in game 1, right? A 10 or so minute game, 4,000 or so gold in the lead. It's happened a bit differently, where Genetics was the main target in game 1. This has been Variety and Twig. But it's almost the same outcome. This time there is no Zeus, however. It was a 2-headed monster. You had a Bakasura diving and a Zeus throwing out a lightning storm. Ven is not that fed here in this game. Not fed at all. He's equal with Big Man Tings as far as golden experience, but the pacing of this game, Trelly, not boding well for the Camelot Kings and their hopes for first seed.
Nope. If anything, they're going to have to put a stop to this running trend so far for the Highland Ravens, and that's been objective after objective, stringing them together. When this Oni Fury spawns in, we're going to have to see the Camelot Kings step up and try and find an engagement. Scream. He's got no problem.
Okay, we're going over to duo.
Find one.
We're going over to duo. Genetics doesn't have ultimate. The Scream have a leap. God, you'd love to finish off these kills. They're so low.
He wants it.
Scream hoping to close the gap, but River's Rebuke would have been waiting, and probably smart from the Highland Ravens not to chase any further forward.
Haddix
is in behind. King Arthur, level 13. This is a risky, really risky, high hopes type of play from Haddix. The Camelot King simply collapsed onto him, and he was out on his own. Well, everything has been going well for the Ravens. Call it an overextension from Haddix, but that has opened up the door to a Tier 1 tower in mid.
Yeah, I don't think the play call was ever, hey, Haddix, can you dive here? I think he might have just decided to do it himself. Pharah does not use his beads. Variety will use the ultimate, but already used Fearless, so not much chase potential here, unless the blink comes from Captain Twig.
But the shell is great. The shell is great, and the shell sends this fight right back. Twig should survive. Hurrywind helps out. So does
Scream has never
Barracuda.
left.
Scream has never left the split push. Big Man Tings will step forward. Scream does not have ultimate nor blink, so Big Man Tings, both of his actives, safe for the time being. Would have been great to get another kill for the Camelot Kings, but Barracuda finds some safety with his support.
Yeah, and Scream keeps doing this, where he clears a couple waves, then he walks away, and I'm like, okay, he's going to go help his team, he's going to rotate, and then he comes back, he's like, is everyone gone? Because if they aren't, I'm going to get one more wave and just keep trying to get ahead. In that case, the Highland Ravens, once again, looking towards the Fury, but it's Variety and it's Yarkor. They're stepping forward, and Haddix is trying to play zone duty.
Variety, will he go up and over? Doesn't have a Lawbringer. Oni Fury, not worth dying for at the 15-minute point in the game. A precarious spot for both teams. Ravens much more comfortable, but a team fight loss brings the Kings right back into the game. Kind of regardless of how things went early on. 3 levels down still as Captain Twig, though. That's where a shutdown would feel great. Somebody grabbing that kill onto the Bakasura, because for now, Twig on this Nemesis is desperately trying to farm up. Go crit into another Katana item. The Camelot Kings, Trelly, they're not a team to shy away from fighting back in. Not when the lead is sub 5,000 or 6,000. And wow, they're feeling confident enough to pick up the Oni Fury. Hurrywind will step forward. There's a fight happening over on right, but the Oni Fury should get confirmed by the Camelot Kings. It does. But for now, you've traded out Variety. Are you going to trade out the rest of your team? The Rivers Rebuke, immaculate in allowing the Camelot Kings to retreat from the fight. However, Scream's got blink and a couple autos for Big Man Tings. Haddix now rotates through as well, and a second kill for the Highland Ravens in exchange for the Oni Fury, but it's going to get worse for the Kings. There's towers to be pushed.
There will be. One tower goes down. I like the back channel here from Scream. The question is everyone going to back? Pyromancer spawns in. You've got the one-man advantage now. The Variety spawns in, but BMT is going to be gone for a while. It looks like now they're not going to try and translate that into a Fire Giant or a Pyromancer. They're just going to retreat. It's actually Genetics and Yark that are walking towards the objective, and Scream has to get there quick. Level 18. Ridiculous amount of farming here. And that's a great blink from Haddix.
17-minute mark, goodness.
Yep, he's a minute over.
750 per minute.
What you would expect from a normal quick farm game. And maybe, yeah, Captain Twig pushing very far up, and the Ravens are trying to rotate here. Those blinks were already used, so he should just be fine. Because Haddix went in. Variety's going to have to be forced to ult out, and Twig.
Yeah, there's no tower here. Twig has beads. Is it going to matter, though? The Kings get the Pyromancer in the meantime. They're going to lose their jungler for the 3rd time this game. 4th kill for Scream. Do they immediately go to FG? Both teams have a Runic Bomb. There's ranged confirm, maybe steal, if you're Big Man Tings. This is maybe the Ravens just asking for any opportunity to fight. They feel like they have won the engagements they've had so handily. Double stun, and a Darkest of Nights through. Fire Giants down to half. Genetics does not have River's Rebuke just yet. The Ravens stick on it. Hurrywind is taking a lot of damage from this FG. The Ravens make the call to not stick around.
Yep, still seems a bit early. Hurrywind doesn't have his cloak or his Gauntlet of Thieves stacked up, meaning he's not quite as tanky as he would like, and that Fire Giant just takes too long to do this early on. Barracuda's got 3 items to his name, none of which are an Executioner, so probably smart to just drop that one for the time being. Captain Twig just overstayed, went real far up for that tower over on right, and the Highland Ravens called the bluff. I mean, they are making quick rotations, quick decisive rotations whenever they see an opportunity to try and scrap, and it doesn't seem like they're going to stop anytime soon. That Fury's not available, and I don't think they're going to be able to go for a Fire Giant as quickly as they would like. And an item that we haven't seen in a while is the Fey Blessed Hoops there for Genetics. Sure, it's going to be, helping out your healing, which is something that a lot of these healers used to go to, but as of recent, this item's been being overlooked.
Hoping that healing and shielding equals surviving longer in fights, which tends to, but There's a near full build Bakasura. Level 19 at 19 minutes. A fight would take him over to level 20. Fire Giant started, but Variety simply tossed aside by Venenu. There's more than enough damage from the rest of the Highland Ravens. Though Haddock's learning the same about the Camelot Kings, maybe. Once again, the Kings have been able to step forward and delay out the Fire Giant. They forced an ult from Scream and forced an ult from Ven. But they have used River's Rebuke from Genetics in trade.
It looks like only Scream is going to stick around just in case the
Haddox is behind still.
Just in case the Camelot Kings decide to go in. Haddox is going deep here, and it looks like Bear pops the ultimate. That's the go key.
Man, Haddox has just controlled the backline as well, and he hasn't taken that much damage. There was a teleport. That's how Haddox refreshed, got back into the fight. Variety loops forward, sends a couple against the wall. And it's actually Barracuda who dies off first. Scream leaps back over. Stuns
There's the
traded.
shutdown.
Oh, goodness, it's Yark. And it's Big Man Tings with all the AoE in the jungle. And how has this happened? A double kill for Captain Twig. And the Kings have flipped the script. And they've dropped 4 members of the Ravens.
Yep, they get the shutdown on the Scream. He leaps in without his ultimate. Bakasura does not have that level of freedom. You can't just jump in without your ult. You don't do enough damage. And in this case, Variety finds a huge ultimate into a great Fearless. Captain Twig finally gets active with a nice blink to the back line. And that's going to punish not only the gold lead, but the relics of the Highland Ravens. Ven was the only one to survive that scrap. And this tower over on right is the first target of the Camelot Kings Fire Giant siege. My question becomes, how much can they grab off this? It looks like just the tower for now. But a vast overstay there from the Highland Ravens. They've been trying to force fights. They've been trying to go for Fire Giant. Just stuck around a little bit too long.
That is tough for the Ravens. First 20 minutes of this game simply didn't matter. Now the Camelot Kings not only have a slight gold lead, it's going to get bigger. A Gold Fury spawns up. They've maybe delayed the game. You're still very strong. Level 20 hit for Scream. That's first in the game. Close to full build. Still ahead of Captain Twig in that area. But what felt like maybe an easy trot to first seed now becomes a lot more difficult after the Camelot Kings wrestle control back of game number 2 here. Can't count out displacement, can't count out lockdown. Big Man Tings, remember, he's been farming up this entire game. Some double stuns from the Agni. And Yark steps forward as well. He's got a 2-level lead over Barracuda. That's kind of gone under my radar.
Bear has not been getting farm.
No, CERN has. Camelot Kings with FG for another couple of minutes or so. Really, this is about putting themselves in the same exact spot the Ravens just were going into the next FG.
Yep, still a tier 1 and a tier 2 in mid. And it looks like Scream's trying to split push here with this runic bomb that he's got in hand. One of the Camelot Kings decide to rotate over and try and collapse. It looks like Scream's not going to go for the attempt at the tower. Will just run away. But it's been Barracuda that has been starved mostly of this farm. He recognizes, hey, you guys need me to do fire. I'm not going to split push. I'm just going to be here. It was a lot of Fire Giant attempts, but never a confirmation. And because of that, Yark was able to split push, get some extra farm, get a full item over Barra. This CERN's a real threat. Whereas Barra needs some time to just AFK over in a lane like Scream's been doing. You mentioned it, already hit level 20, but is continuously the one who is split pushing, trying to get some farm done. Well, as Barra just has to be stuck underneath the tower and hope that he can get the free waves that come his way.
Scream will have to go back. Variety with Ankh in Blink does not have teleport. Bit more farm stolen away from Scream. Maybe sensing the Camelot Kings were not going to attempt to siege the mid lane Phoenix. Bit of an extension out from the Ravens here, but Scream's going back, so no pincer type movement in either from the Highland Ravens. Once again, we've been reset, but this time it's the Kings bringing the lead into the next Fire Giant after a miraculous team fight. Seemingly out of nowhere after the way the rest of this game has gone, but goes to show you what a shutdown and a little bit of patience can get you right now. And it's an opportunity to close things out in the game. Which really looks like we're going to one more FG. Fire Giant buff falls off. A couple runic bombs for the Ravens, one for the Camelot Kings. Experience is stabilized. Now it's actually Haddox who's behind after Variety was 2 or 3 levels behind for the majority of the game. Feels like Variety happy that the laning phase is over and he can now actually play the game.
Yep, unfortunately for Haddox, it's very difficult to beat King Arthur from behind because when you're ahead, you get free waves, you get to stack up your ultimate, and you get to go into a fight saying, hey, I've got this great get-out-of-jail-free card, I can CC, I can do all this damage, but when you're behind, you have to find time to farm up these waves, get your energy up, so you can use that ultimate effectively, which it looks like Haddix was able to for the time being. But once you use it once, it's hard to get it back, especially when you're stuck underneath your Phoenix and too scared to even push out. So another Fire Giant would be disastrous here for the Highland Ravens. But the Camelot Kings, they're the first ones to step up. Plenty of hit level 20, plenty of upgraded those starter items. They're feeling good to step into the Highland Ravens jungle. And remember, if the Ravens are here, and it looks like Scream is going to get ulted here, but can Genetic catch him? No, he can't.
Ult traded. Oh, Variety? Well, what is what
Why was
happened
he there?
to Variety? He was there all on his own. And after Scream was engaged on, Variety tried to do the same, I guess, over on right. I'm seeing a few ultimates down. Maybe Ven caught him out, but it's the only pick that happens. So Scream was jumped on. The only pick that happens is the Ravens grabbing a kill on a Variety. Now Fire Giant at 25 minutes. In the air, Fire Giant burns, and Fire Giant taken by the Highland Ravens, but they have lost Haddix in the meantime and nearly lost Twig. Barracuda dashes forward. What is happening here in game 2? Genetic steps forward once again. Barra should live, though Yark with a bit more lockdown might be able to grab a kill. Big Man Tings dashes forward. Stun, you forgot about the Agni. And the Ravens get 3 FG buffs, a kill on a Variety, but lose their sides of the map.
Did Barra really not have Rising Jaguar? It seemed like his dash was ready. He'd been running for such a long time. Maybe he just didn't have the CDR. And in this case, I'm baffled. I mean, Scream gets caught out, but let's be honest, he was never going to get caught there. Very fast, has the slow. As long as Genetics doesn't have the Riptide, he was gone. All the while, Variety is 1v4ing in the backline. And with the build he's opted to go for, he's not very tanky. I mean, he's got Spirit Robe, sure, but he's going into more damage in that last slot. So Variety ends up going down. Haddix tries to zone. Got hit by some good crits there from Captain Twig and gets shredded. So the King Arthur dies, and you're able to grab a Fire Giant. 1-for-1 trade, that's fine. But Barracuda gets caught out trying to get the 1 HP Captain Twig. And Big Man Ting stashes in, making sure to confirm that kill and take 2 FGs away. Now it's only on Scream, Ven, and Hurry. And there are 3 Tier 2 towers that the Highland Ravens would love to go for. It's a risky call when your ADC doesn't have the buff.
God, Barracuda, he has been level 18 for the last, 5 minutes. I looked prior to that Fire Giant fight, and he needed 900 XP or so to hit level 19. Now finally down to 100. We'll get it off this purple buff, but it has been tough sledding for this Jabalanque to get farm and experience built up. Tier 2 Odibo, Tier 2 Titan's Bane. That feels fine. But Yark with full build and starter item upgrade. Massive threat.
Oh, yeah.
On this CERN. Tings and Genetics.
Haddix going to spot this out.
Group up behind the wall, right? I believe Haddix sees it. Rotation through, though, from Variety, who's been a bit more free-flowy with his play here recently. As the laning phase has ended, he hit level 20 even before Haddix. Now what can the Ravens do with their FG buff? Still 3 towers outside of the King's base for the taking.
And this Tier 2 on left is where the grouping is, but Scream and Haddix are in mid. And it looks like blinking on a Captain Twig immediately melts through the shield.
Gotta get the kill. Scream does, but there's a stun traded back by Variety. Clean engage, disengage from the Highland Ravens over in mid. Hurrywin lost some health over here on left.
Looks like
been a bit of poke traded out by the Camelot Kings. Without Captain Twig, though, what can you do? There's still 2 other towers. And you've used your runic bombs. Wonder if they're still actually considering this siege.
Probably not much longer, though. Scream should be able to grab the Tier 2 for free. You got Twig down for 26 seconds and Fire Giant buff just left. Big stuns. You got to retreat now.
Oh, Variety. Oh, that's unfortunate. I think that's a 4-man stun from Big Man Tings. At least 3, maybe the 4th. Could have been amazing if there was additional connection from Variety. If nothing else, Ven had to burn both Beads and Aegis there, sensing a reinitiation from the Camelot Kings. So you're getting value from it if you're BMT. And that's an important time to get it as well. Fire Giant's up in 30. And Ven won't have his actives for another 2.5 minutes or so. Fortunately for the Morgan Le Fay, you're going to have to play a bit more safe around the next big fight.
Good news for Ven.
Oh, tell me.
He hasn't died yet this game because no one can get to him.
You know what you've just done? You cast or cursed.
Well, Morgan Le Fay's got immense self-peel. You're a big
That's true.
fan of Morgan Le Fay. You should know that. So I think he's going to be just fine.
Well, yeah, not her kit.
No.
Right.
Yeah. In this
I don't
case,
know what her kit does. Right.
Right. In this case, he could be in trouble, really. I mean, just double relic down. If Genetics is able to find it, it's just been Ven plays so far back, and I think that's the reason Variety. I mean, if you remember a long time ago when Variety got picked out, when Scream was getting chased through mid, he was trying to pull relics. Ven was ulting because this tier has one job at this moment, and it is get to the carries. And Ven and Bear have been staying very far back. No one can fight Scream yet. That is still an issue. But Haddix gets stunned and pushed back in.
Haddix melted, but he'll get out of the River's Rebuke. And has teleport. He can reset. This is just a Pyromancer pull for the Camelot Kings. How costly is it? Runic Bomb in Variety's back pocket will tell the tale. Haddix resustains. And that's 3 ultimates. That's actually pretty big. Camelot Kings use Divine Judgment, River's Rebuke, and Wild Hunt, and do not get the kill onto Haddix. That is the go button for the Highland Ravens. Oh my goodness! It's right, Trelly. It's an initiation from Scream and Haddix, and it's a kill onto Genetics to start. But the silver lining for the Kings is somehow Twig and Variety don't die, because that was swift and quick damage from the Ravens, and now it's a turnaround for Fire.
Yeah, grouping up for the
EFG.
Regurgitate, not the call. Enhanced Fire Giant has touchdown, and the Camelot Kings are looking anywhere but where this Fire Giant is spawned in. Grouping up for the AoE auto attacks, for the Odie Bow, for the Cone. So much that Scream can do there. And it has been all Bakasura this game. I mean, Haddix is doing some great damage in the backline, maybe overstaying his welcome a bit, but it has been Bakasura creating space and finding and confirming these kills for his team. Just a beautiful game so far played by Scream. Highland Ravens finally get EFG. No one dies this time. Remember, last time it was Fire Giant on 3. This time EFG on 5. And unfortunately for Genetics, you've got the River's Rebuke. You've got one shot to make an impactful ultimate because of that cooldown, and there are 2 Phantom Shells available. Last time we saw the River's Rebuke, Haddix was able to just weasel his way out barely, and because of that, if you are going to go in, it's going to take a while before you're even able to find that opportunity because of the Phantom Shells. I will say,
They're chilling.
Yeah, I was going to say, I will say, I have no idea what this call is. Maybe
They think someone's pushing from the Kings, maybe?
it's possible.
They had Oni minions?
Yeah, it's possible they think the King's just setting up an ambush. We have the hindsight to know that they're nowhere near, but they don't know that, so we'll cut them some slack in that regard.
No slack.
All right, what a bunch of dinguses.
Dweebs.
Yeah, how do you not know they're in base right now, bro?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, there's no waves to be cleared because the Oni minions were pushing in. The Camelot Kings are in their base, though. They will not be stepping out anytime soon. Finally, the Highland Ravens have confirmation because of that ward Captain Twig walked over. So Scream knows, hey, there's some people over here. We can step forward. There is an Oni minion wave pushing right, but not going to be able to take a full Phoenix. So the Camelot Kings don't really have that going forward for them. But at the very least, Big Man Tings, last time this happened, got some big damage onto the Highland Ravens. I got my eyes on the Agni for the defense. He's got good clear, he's got good range, and Scream's nowhere near him for now.
1 minute, 15 seconds on the EFG. First seed up for grabs for the Highland Ravens. A game 3 for the same prize. That's what the Camelot Kings are fighting for. 3-1-1 is your split. You've sent Bakasura to mirror the Nemesis over on right, but
That has not gone well in the past.
right, going to rotate over towards mid, pair up with Haddix. Everyone, except for Bracer, has their relics. An ultimate down onto Twig, but Twig has just got all the damage. But it's the Phoenix that the Ravens are worried about, and it's the Phoenix on right that the Ravens will get.
Yep, don't mind that call. Blink in, use your ultimate. The minions will tank, and Scream's able to grab that Phoenix with Enhanced Fire. Giant Haddix has the teleport to come back through if he wants to use it. And the rest of the Ravens are going to get out of the River's Rebuke once again without using Phantom Shell, but Variety and Twig are trying to chase this one down.
Haddix is going to teleport back in, though. Haddix might flip the fight around, and in fact, maybe he has. He saved Hurrywin's life. Ven taking poke. Oh, goodness. Big Man Tings has done enough. Barracuda stands, but he will fall. Mid lane Phoenix given over to Scream. That's the King's opportunity for a fight back, but Scream, who has just been a split push machine this game, adds another objective to his belt. It's both Phoenixes on this push. Fire Giant falls off anyway. Barracuda will be up in time for the next one. Kings, though, defending 2 Phoenixes down. 1 in mid and 1 in right.
I mean, at this point, the Camelot Kings have to try and make something of this push, or at least of this time where Barracuda's gone. Because as you said, the Enhanced Fire Giant will be spawning in a little bit. Bear's going to be a couple steps out of base when it touches down, and the Camelot Kings are already finding position. Haddix, maybe he doesn't know where they're at. He doesn't have a Phantom Shell of his own. The team might have to get over here to help out. Yep, here they come.
Hardcore stepping forward. This might be the final fight of the game. If it's convincing one way or another, Haddix riptided back. A tanky King Arthur doesn't matter. The Camelot Kings rotate through, grab a kill on the Haddix right as Barracuda's respawning.
Scream's going to just push in for the end.
Yeah, I wonder if he is. You know, the Camelot Kings, they're going to be... There's a ward down. I think...
He hasn't crossed it yet.
I think it was a Ravens ping on that ward, though.
He avoided it, I think.
So he sidestepped it. Enhanced Fire Giant, left side Phoenix, all 3 Phoenixes down. 1 back being channeled by the Camelot Kings. Enhanced Fire Giant for the 3rd Phoenix in the base is now the call. Camelot Kings may not just have the opportunity to push out. This may effectively stall out a lot of this Enhanced Fire Giant.
Yep, Scream, the split push machine, has went through and taken down all 3 birds for the Camelot Kings, which means you can't just push through mid and right and expect the fire minions to take care of the rest. You have to worry about all 3 lanes. And they have effectively stalled out, at the very least, Barracuda and Haddix spawning back in. So it will be a 5v5. But I think you're right, Dave. It is very difficult to push in from this position. I mean, the Camelot Kings can try. They're going to go up mid. But all the Highland Ravens have to do is play as defensively as possible. And these minions will come in eventually. They have right and left side. They're already being pushed up. And the Kings are just, I mean, they either try to win in one foul swoop or they're going to have to retreat. And already Scream said, I'm going for the end.
Yeah, Scream. He'll walk in with his fire minions. Only minion waves on right will contest this Bakasura. And they are quickly dealing with the minions that the Camelot Kings have. Backs being channeled. Captain Twig and Variety considering a back, but the backs are stopped. It's Scream who's blinked into the base, and it's the Titan who gets taken down by Scream. But no, it doesn't. He has to leap away. 1 back gets channeled. 3-man stun on the other side of the fight.
He's back for the
Scream!
end.
He stayed around, and the Titan will not fall. Captain Twig keeps it alive. Oh my goodness. The fire minions would have gotten it done. But Scream nearly gets it. And he's kept his base alive. I think, yes, mid lane Phoenix falls.
But Haddix
the
can
Camelot
teleport.
Kings, they've got everyone. Haddix could TP.
There's not a ward close enough. He's not going to be able to go for it.
But the left side Phoenix still getting sieged. The Highland Ravens haven't been able to defend the rest of their base.
Yep, still 3 Phoenixes down. Right side will spawn in here shortly, but that Phoenix is going to not be enough. That Titan is going to sit at low HP for such a long time. The Camelot Kings have to make sure all wards are gone, or else Haddix can just blink in and end the game. Scream's gone for 24 seconds. Twig's on right. Variety's on left. It's a 4v3 here where the Highland Ravens are not trying to step out of their base. They need to stall until Scream comes back. If this EFG goes out, I mean, it's just going to be how long can you defend your base until that 3rd Phoenix comes up on the left side of the map. 1 HP. Twig comes up massive for his team there. That Titan almost dropped just to some fire archers.
Yep. Man. Well, is there a world now? I mean, you're full 5 if you're the Highland Ravens. I mean, if you're the Kings, you have to meet them outside of your base, right? I mean, if you meet them in the Titan room.
There's no one slippery enough on the Ravens to get in the base for free. It's not like it's a Janice or, an Apollo. They have to blink past and try and make it in. And Genetics has so much displacement. Variety's so quick. He's got his ult, his blink. It is difficult to just go in for the end call. But
it's a Screamite.
Because of this map state, it should be a guaranteed EFG for the Ravens, unless, of course, the Camelot Kings just stall until that left side bird comes up.
Yeah, but this is so risky because if Scream gets caught...
Oh, if Scream gets caught, the game's over.
It might be, and it might happen. The Scream has been spotted. Scream's got to know
They're all coming.
That everyone's starting to run at the jungler of the Highland Ravens. What do the Ravens do, though, in trade? They're starting to rotate down past the Pyromancer.
They got to go.
Can Scream just delay the rest of the game? A couple backs now being channeled. 3, in fact. So there will be defenders for the Camelot Kings.
That Phoenix is coming up
Scream
soon.
jumps up and over. He blinks over the stun, and he'll send his ult down. Big man Tings gets less than nothing as far as damage goes.
Phoenix hasn't
and the rest
yet.
of the Ravens walking into the Titan room. The Phoenix will not respawn, but oh my God! The Camelot Kings have defended somehow Scream is still here.
He's got to go
trying
now.
one last effort. He's got no relics. Unbelievable. A triple kill from the brink for Captain Twig. And we're going on to a game 3.
I cannot believe it. The Highland Ravens, they panicked. They didn't have the damage. They didn't have the CC immunity. And they end up falling. The Camelot Kings are going to siege forward, laughing all the way home, and take this one to a game 3.
God.
When first seed was on the line, the Titan did not fall.
That's right. It stands. One Titan does fall, and it's the one on the Ravens side of the map. Call it 100, maybe less HP on the Kings Titan, Trelly. And that is a near game end, a miraculous ultimate. The River's Rebuke separates the fight, and the Ravens just were not able to put their damage on the low health Titan. Variety is stressed. My goodness. Think about how the early portion of that game went for the Kings.
Not good.
I mean, they are getting run down. You're thinking Scream on this Bakasura is just going to run away with things. But it's a game the Camelot Kings did win, despite what was a brutal early game for really the second game in a row. And now we're back to 50-50 for game 3. Not 51-49, but 50-50. Maybe seems fair after everything that we've seen. Early game got to be vitally important here, you'd imagine, for the Camelot Kings, because it has just not been pretty up to this point so far this set.
I can tell you first and foremost, this clear was a big blunder. Yeah, Barracuda moved, and Hurry ended up missing the dash because of that. Very weak. And I have a lot to say about what I'm looking at currently. First and foremost, Dave, I want you to look to the left.
Okay.
I want you to look to the right.
Okay.
Have you done that?
Yep.
The world is healing. There is 0 healers in this match. And because of that, Barracuda, once again, was he not 1 HP last time? He's got to stop stepping up.
These early clears.
It takes 1 minion to hit level 2, and Barra keeps forgetting and just gets so weak at the beginning of every single lane matchup. So that's the first thing I want to know. There are 0 healers in a first seed matchup for the Order Division.
That's right.
Which is a big deal. Guan Yu was completely overlooked. I mean, Afro and Hell were banned away, but something to consider. In this case, the Circuit got through, which is wild to me. But it seems to be the Highland Ravens made one call as Captain Twig on that Circuit. It's low, but Scream's not going to be able to find it. The Highland Ravens made a judgment call. They said, hey, let's let this Circuit through, and we'll grab Nox and just ruin the Camelot Kings' day, whoever decides to play it. But what I think they failed to consider was Variety would get Vamana in the mix. Circuit and Vamana is a dangerous combo. And remember, Captain Twig played the Vamana. He didn't love it. Now you're giving it over to Variety? I'm curious to see how this solo lane Vamana ends up going, because in game number 1, of course, the full damage didn't quite work out.
It'll be Scream on something that's not Bakasura for the first time this set. Be playing the Kleena instead. Still a style of pick that Scream tends to enjoy. Haddix will try his hand on the Hercules. Up against that very same Vamana. Scream out of the wall. Little damage for Captain Twig. Always got to be careful when there's a Kleena in your game. Never quite know exactly where they're hovering. So early health battle goes to the Highland Ravens. The pacing, though, might be a little bit different from Scream. He has been the split push monster. You can't just gobble up the camps quite as easily on the Kleena. Have to calculate those invades maybe a little bit differently in the remainder of game 3.
It's something I want everyone to keep their eye on.
Okay.
And this is something I've only noticed about Scream's Kleena gameplay. No one else, besides when she was playing solo, tends to do this. Scream maxes the dash more often than not. And because of that, the majority of his damage is going to come from that dash, right? When he's lunging forward out of the wall. Most people put it in the 2 if they think the 1 is going to cancel the 1, but Scream is not going to be able to use his dash defensively if he's trying to get active. So A, you might be surprised by how much the swipe is doing, but B, it's hard to retreat when you're doing a play like that. Just something to keep your eye out for, considering how much damage we know Captain Twig can do in the early. The Circuit is picked for her early pressure. The amount of time she can just pull beads and look for early ganks. So much damage from both of these assassins. Scream definitely getting the better end of the XP trade, hitting level 5 first, but Captain Twig not too far behind, and no blinks from the junglers, both of which, fearing the CC, go in for the beads, probably playing a more passive start.
What your take is on the Geb here? There were some options for genetics during picks and bans. I think they hovered the Terra towards the end. Ended up pivoting back towards Geb. I'll let you think about it while Captain Twig makes a gank happen over on left. Emblem used by Hurrywind. Gotta be an early kill, and it is. And finally, Captain Twig grabbing first blood here in this set. It's first blood in a pivotal game 3 onto Hurrywind.
Yep, as telegraphed as it gets. You stepping that far up, someone's going to come over, but no ward coverage. Means Hurrywind gets his dash stopped. Means he goes down for first blood. And I'll tell you, Dave, because it was Hurrywind that played the Geb recently, and I was a big fan of it then. As long as it's an answer to the Nox, you're going to have a good time. Oh, man.
That stinks.
Yeah, Variety did not call the bluff. That would not have pulled. And Variety was scared. He was going to die. There was no boulder even, so I don't think it would have killed regardless. But use the Colossal Fury, so maybe Scream heads over to solo lane, trying to find access to a kill on that side of the map. But in this case, I like the Geb. I think Geb is slept on even out of the Nox matchup. But in this case, it's a great counter. The second you see that combo come through, a shield is going to solve your problems. But here comes Captain Twig behind Scream. Might have to retreat here.
Scream sure does. Never went into the wall, went a dash towards Variety. You were right, though. Colossal Fury missing. Used. So Scream maybe sensing an opportunity for a gank on right. Actually still sticks around here. Trades a bit of health with Captain Twig. Variety realizing he's got some safety in his jungle. No mana. No ultimate, no problem. A blue buff invade would feel great here for Scream. Tings rotates over to red. Red's not there, so it could be a quick rotation to right if the Camelot Kings end up wanting to fight this.
Oh.
They do. Oh, man. Captain Twig, though, has taken all the damage in the world, and all of it's dealt by Scream and Haddix. Man, and the 3 versus 2 doesn't matter. The Highland Ravens find the kill.
Yep, incredible burst damage. And again, I saw Scream trade with Twig in the jungle. He hits his 1, he hits his 2, not much damage. Twig says, hey, I'm going to jump in here. Haddix says, all right, driving strike into the wall. Scream dashes. That's where the big burst comes through. And, of course, here's the Veil. Was able to do a little bit of tick damage on top. And that's going to be an easy kill there for Scream on top of the invade there for Haddix. So, right side of the map. This is how last game started. Looking real good. At the very least, Variety doesn't go down. And I think that's the big difference maker, right? You were looking towards kills onto Variety. Whereas now you're just looking at invades and kills onto Captain Twig, which certainly did happen in game number 2 as well. The Bakasura was getting the better end of those trades on a Nemesis, but now Scream says, hey, Kleena still can find some of those aggressive plays. Haddix doesn't really want to try and fight when Colossal Fury is available, so just going to get some clear. He went for the regrowth, though, and I've been liking this a lot. Dropping the Golden Blade, picking up more protections early on. Hercules has always had fine clear, and when you don't, you just boulder the wave. Everyone does it. It's not going to be that big of an issue as long as there's not incredible amounts of lockdown on the side of the Camelot Kings, which Variety just doesn't have. Twig does, but because he just fell down, shouldn't be a problem. Drop the boulder whenever you'd like for some poke, to confirm a buff, anything like that.
Haddix has really been in control of the solo lane the last couple games. Has received some assistance from his jungler. Been winning the totem battle 4-1. I think 8 straight in the last game in the King Arthur. Didn't matter by the end of it, though. Twig dashes forward towards Scream.
I think he tried to ult that.
Considered it, but ends up having to back away. Neither jungler immediately rotating over towards solo. Haddix dancing around what looked like a knock-up attempt from Variety. The Serket versus Kleena battle continues on here, Trelly. One that Twig got the better of the dual lane early. Scream got the better of the right side in a fight just a few moments later. Twig will just be happy that we've gotten to a point here in the late early game, or maybe mid-early game, at a point where he's equal with Scream.
Ben is going to be running away from Genetics. Possible chest camp invade as on top of the green buff, which was being looked at.
Not Chester.
Yep, Chester's done. Twig makes out like a bandit, and now Variety has just enough mana to go up into the sky.
Ow.
Oh, man, Scream just had enough HP to hide. It looks like he'll be able to wait out the Colossal Fury. And Barra wasted his ultimate to try and make sure.
No assist this time.
Yep, no assist, no extra gold. But it looks like purple buff could be on the cards here. Hurrywood's looking weak. And if the Camelot Kings get to that purple buff first, there's no way Barra's got much burst to try and confirm it. This is a risky call in general, though. Scream does not have a lot of HP, and Variety still has a lot of safety. To try and go for a gank would be a bit risky, but Captain Twig's on the other side of the map. He just wants to make sure this purple buff goes down.
Barra has beads, does not have ultimate. Doesn't use the beads, but now We'll dash away. A couple ults used. Looks like confirmed purple buff pickup, though, for the Camelot Kings, and a shield buff. So a couple buff camps worthwhile when you're considering genetics and Yark and their ultimates, and maybe their non-likelihood of using those in any other moment. Tends to be in Game 3 you slow down a little bit. We've seen early Gold Fury pulls in now back-to-back games. But if neither team feeling far enough ahead to rotate to that objective in the next couple of minutes, could end up stalemating out just a bit. Remember, the poke damage from Big Man Tings helps flip Game 2 around as well. That's what Ven is going to have this time on the Agni. And it seemed like by the time we got to team fight phase, the Ravens never really had a great answer for finding that back line. You wonder if the Kings, maybe you're hoping that Vamana and Serket can just march on towards the Agni.
I think at this point, it's going to be a bit different just because Scream is on the cleanest. So if you can sit back until level 20, when you have like Heartseeker, when you've got upgraded damage items, and you can just spam through the wall, it becomes a lot easier to find engage because Scream just says, oh, half of a carry's HP is gone because he stood a little bit too close to the wall I was in. Now we can engage. Whereas Baka, he has to commit his body, he has to blink in, he has to put himself in trouble. And I think might have been the reason that Scream decided to split push the rest of that game away. Kleena does offer a little bit more safety in that regard. The Camelot Kings, though, grouping up towards the Fury. Not to go for a pull because Yarkor's not even here, but trying to find Hurrywin. We've seen time and time again some lockdown onto this Nox. With the Prophetic Cloak, you're not too tanky until you start getting some stacks online, so maybe that's the reason that Hurrywin's been the main target of the aggression here from the Kings. But still, grouping up around the Gold Fury has been the call. Tings hasn't been here. He's just been farming, but everyone else, 3 core of the Camelot Kings, Duo Lane and Twig, has spent a lot of time over on the left side of the map.
A little bit of poke into Hurrywin, a little bit into Barracuda. Not enough to commit a dive. Good auto attacks from Yark. But it is enough to pull Scream over to the left side of the map as well. Ward coverage from the Kings will spot out Ven on his way over from mid, back behind the green buff and the chest camp and the purple buff. It's a ward battle that's being won by one team right now. Don't see much of anything from the Highland Ravens, so this might be a bit of surprise to Hurrywin. Blink forward, but Hurrywin survives in the second wind of the fight over to the Ravens and a confirmed purple buff. Kings come up empty-handed over on left.
Hurry says, you can blink ult me once, but next time I'm going to have my Night Terror to immune that stun. The ult's off the mark, but it's for the CC immunity. Hurry didn't want to get locked down, and Twig decides to hold on to his ultimate because he realized, yeah, we're probably not killing this Nox if that stun doesn't connect. But Yarkor has been playing extremely aggressive. This Rama has not spent too much time on his own side of the map. A lot of pressure towards Barracuda on the X-Ball, trying to get him in range of those snipes. You see Haddix walk over to Pyro. I was going to say, the Ravens are really feeling like they can step up when the rest of the team is gone. I'm going to say no. Scream does have great damage, don't get me wrong. If you pierce the Veil and drop 2 of those on the Pyromancer, it'll go down relatively quickly, but just starting Transcendence tells me that Scream's playing more passively. He wants to get stacks online and fast track to level 20. Probably don't want to be taking contested pulls when the rest of the Kings are here. If they're on gold, sure. You go for the Pyro, you say, hey, we're going to trade. I'm going to go back to farming. But if they're in your face, probably not the call. This is what they were waiting for, though. Kings are gone. They've got a ward here, but too little too late. Pyro goes down for free. Scream picks up the Runic Bomb. That's easy to get.
Scream is still about a level and a half ahead of Twig. Was 2 levels ahead just a second ago. Spent some time on the Pyro while Twig was back and farming up. So that gap may close a little bit, but still a trend that's been established now is early game advantages to Scream in the jungle battle of this set, and can say the same for Haddix. He's 1 level ahead of Variety at this point in the game as well. Neither solo laner has teleport immediately. Barracuda ulted by Captain Twig, but he uses the beads, avoids a lot of the return damage. The apple bounces, and the apple gets Barra. But Barra had an auto or 2 in trade for Captain Twig in the meantime. Hurrywin steps forward and then dashes away. Snipes 1, no good. 2 is good. 3 might have just killed Hurrywin, but didn't hit anyway. Barracuda for Twig's the trade.
Yep, Twig jumps in. Vera says, hold on a second. I've got enough damage. I'm going to try and return this kill. If that apple didn't hit, Twig definitely dies for his troubles and is not able to find that kill. But Big Man Tings bounces it off the wall probably 5 or 6 times and is able to find its way towards the X-Ball, which means Bear goes down at the very least with a trade. So still 2 for 2. The Highland Ravens I mean, it's interesting because, Tings has been on top of farm. Getting a kill there's a big deal. He pulls ahead of Ven. But Haddock still has a lot of pressure over in solo lane. Has been doing good. But Hurrywood's by himself here. Does have to jump into Vera to try and retreat. And look at Variety. He's not heading over to solo lane. He's coming right here because Haddock's already made the rotation over. It's going to be a 5-5 towards this Goldfear. Who's going to feel confident enough to pull? Looks like no one yet.
Haddock invests his teleport. Variety had already used his to get over to right. So kind of this teeter-totter of a teleport battle's going on. If a fight were to break out, Variety would be able to TP back to right if things fizzle out, whereas Haddock would have to walk back. And though those are minor moments, can add up to additional waves and buffs, and has kept Variety a bit closer in the XP department.
Is a teeter-totter the same as a seesaw?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I think, yes.
Okay.
My initial guess is yes, but now I'm questioning it.
Well, because I was thinking of,
Right.
on one side it goes up, one side goes down, but I always knew it as a seesaw.
Right.
And you called it a teeter-totter, but
I wonder if that's like a northern versus – I wonder if that's like an Ohio thing.
I was born in Pennsylvania.
Oh, well, what do you call sprinkles?
I do not say Jimmy's.
I say Jimmy's.
I know you do. I've heard it many times.
But I've made a point to call them Jimmy's. Like, I know them as sprinkles, but I've decided that I'm going to call them Jimmy's, even though I've been in Georgia for 25 years of my life. It's been an active decision. And Barra makes an active choice with his life here. He'll back away from the tier 1 that's dropped at 15 minutes. That is good for first tower in the game. Yark and Genetics have just built up pressure on left, and it has kept Barracuda away and really unable to rotate out. What's that resulted in? Not terribly much. Maybe 1 level lead for Yark, a few 100 gold here or there. So Barracuda still even as far as itemization goes for now. Really just happy that he hasn't fallen way too far behind, especially with the Gold Fury still standing. Having your ADC up for the first Gold Fury of the game. Great advantage. Though it is 2 levels as we stand. Might even right back, though, depending on where the wave is. Sure does. Mid laners have gone eye for eye with one another, though Charon's coin for Tings is his middle item. Rod of Tahuti for Ven on the other side, but still itemization across the board. In a very similar spot. Trelly, dare I say it, we're going to get one of our first even 16-minute fights of the set.
Yep, once again, Variety walks over. Haddock recognizes it, follows him on the way towards this Fury. I'm wondering what the engage is because, Blink Cataclysm from Genetics could start this fight, but look at the Fury already going. Yeah, it's Variety and Genetics just zoning.
They're good. They should be able to get this. Scream's not going to be able to get in the wall and steal it away. The Kings get the Gold Fury, and they disengage immediately.
Just straight to Pyro.
Just stronger presence from the Camelot Kings and maybe quicker rotations through. But now, Kings got to be worried. They're being funneled through this tiny little canyon over in the mid lane camps. That's where Ven can find great cleave damage. Haddock's. Goodness, he was all alone there.
Scream
Ultimate
started
out
it
from
up.
Hurrywind. Yes,
gone.
indeed. And finished it. And so now another Pyromancer for the Highland Ravens, this time in exchange for the Gold Fury over in mid, but all this neutral gold, call it Bastions, tier 1 towers, still an advantage of the Kings.
Yeah, man, it looks like Twig is going to blink forward, pull the Magi off of Hurrywind, but now Twig might be in some trouble.
But Hurrywind just dashes away. Twig has got to leap away. Barracuda draped the shades over the fight. Variety hoping to steal away a red buff, then a mid laner. Ravenous for more red buffs, will not allow that to happen. Things end up fizzling out over here in the mid lane. Neither team, Trelly, has really taken a big risk at this point in the game. Highland Ravens don't overextend to try to fight for the Fury. The Camelot Kings do the same for mid tier 1.
One of my favorite interactions you get to see in Smite is when the solo laners rotate out. They get their first taste of mid lane damage and immediately go back to base and say, ooh, I need some magic defense. Variety finally starts working on it. Ven did some good damage there when Variety was trying to steal that red buff. But the trading of objectives means that's probably the end of the aggression for now. Still only 2-2. Not for a lack of trying, though. It hasn't been a completely passive game in the sense of actual blood spilled. Yes, only 4 kills total, but there's been attempts. And Yarkor and Genetics are hiding, waiting to see if Bear's going to step forward, but he's been playing so passively all game. I don't imagine now is the time he decides to brave the encounters of Yarkor and step forward. He has no idea that Genetics is nearby, but he's playing smart. He's just going to stick around because there was a ward closer if Genetics walked up. And Bear said, hey, I am here to get to level 20, and until then, I don't want to take any trades. This is not an ego contest. Yarkor is just ahead, XP-wise, and has the snipes to try and confirm that kill that Bear doesn't want to go for. But because both objectives are down again, probably the end of the aggression for now. Haddix and Variety haven't really left lane except for that one Gold Fury fight and the one attempted Gold Fury fight prior. And it has been Scream still getting the better end of Captain Twig. 2 levels on this Kleena. It could start to add up, you know, the damage that Scream can do. Once he gets that Heartseeker online and some extra DPS, he's going to go over to Variety, but Variety's got Colossal Fury, which means he gets to walk out for free unless they're trying to lock him down here. Hurry's got to hit the combo.
Got to hit some damage, too, because Variety's got Blink. Variety dodges enough out. Would have been a nice little advantage for the Ravens, especially with some rotations towards right. A kill there might have just been a Fire Giant pull right around the 20-minute mark. Twig going a bit more hybrid with his build. Transcendence, Stone of Binding, Relic Dagger at that. Genetics makes some plays happen over in mid. Gets the beads off of Ven with the Blink Cataclysm. Hurrywind all on his own, all by his lonesome, and that's how he'll die as Yark has the last bit of damage. I mean, Nox has been right on the edge all game long. And the Kings finally call Hurry on it. Though poke damage returned has maybe sent the Kings running.
Yep, Hurry still not tanky. Remember, it's Cloak Magi's. That's it. You need that Cloak stacked up. He does not have it. He's trying to be a frontliner as a level 13 when Big Man Ting's is level 19. He's got 6 levels. You cannot stand up. You are just a Nox with a Cloak as far as I'm concerned. So not going to work out. Scream still had some good damage, and that was a beautiful blink engage from Genetics to force Ven forward, pull the beads, and the second Ven's beads are gone, Hurry goes into protector mode. Says, don't worry, I'll peel him off, I'll step forward. But you lose your life. And it's actually Haddix stepping forward. And the Ravens, they're not going to hit this. Surely not. They're down a little bit longer. Hurrywind had a short respawn time, but you're not feeling confident enough to make a pull onto the FG. Not at this moment. So it looks like it's not going to come from anything. But still, Barracuda, I think he's been caught in this trap twice now, where he rotates way too early.
Yep.
No Fire Giant gets done, and he's stuck with these exact 3 items and never ticks over to level 20, whereas Yark says, hey, I'm going to rotate, but I'm going to get farm. I'm going to be clearing waves, I'm going to be doing objectives, and then I'm going to go back. It just seems like he's been stuck at level 16 2 games in a row because his team wants to fight, because Ven has a little bit extra farm, because Big Man Tings hits 20. Sometimes it's better to say, hey, you guys can fight 5v4. Let me get some items online. Let me hit level 20 first.
Yep. Barracuda was stuck at level 16 for a while, and then level 18 for a while. Finally hit level 20, I assume, by the end of that game. Mid to left, experience-wise, behind for the Highland Ravens. Ven, level behind Tings, who's hit level 20, first in the game. Pretty far ahead of anyone else as well. Hurrywind and Barra, talked about them. Good news for the Ravens is Scream has maintained about a 2-level lead over Captain Twig, where his farm has just been quick and he's rotated throughout the map. So you're hoping this Kleena can find some value with the slight lead that has been built up.
Here come the Kings.
Ultimate from Twig onto Haddix. The taunt back through, a knock up onto the Hercules, but a dash out of the Cataclysm may have just saved Haddix. It looks like has indeed. Oni Fury pulled by the Highland Ravens. Variety is here. Can't afford to let this one get stolen. The Fire Giant immediately picked up by the Camelot Kings over on right. It's solo laners trying to steal the objectives. Hurrywind taking way too much damage from the Oni Fury. The Ravens get the Fury at least. Excavate flies through the Fire Giant, but no chance for a steal there. Haddix has controlled the right side enough, however, and that's forced the Fire Giant to be dropped by the Camelot Kings.
They're retreating.
And my goodness, this Hercules has forced the Camelot Kings back and given Barracuda some time to farm.
Yeah, Barra said, forget it. I'm going to hit level 18. I'll see you guys later. Hopefully they don't do fire. And it was just the threat of Haddix. Ven makes a late rotation in. All the while, Variety decides to try and chase down Hurrywind. Could not find that kill. And that is insane to me that the Camelot Kings don't commit to that Fire Giant. They didn't want to risk it. That was a lot of free farm that Barracuda desperately needed. Ends up finishing that dominance and going into a tier 2 Odibo. Rotates back in level 19. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better play if you're the Highland Ravens. Bear was 2 levels down, a full item. Now he's got half an item, probably just because Yarkor hasn't backed yet. But the Fire Giant does not go down, which means the Highland Ravens are in a good position. Hurrywind doesn't have that upgraded starter item, but did finish the Stone of Binding. So he's a little bit tankier, harder for him to connect.
Twig initiates, but Twig gets shoved back by Haddix. Hurrywind, well-timed dash. Remember, first place on the line. Genetics wants it with the Cataclysm onto Haddix. Takes a set of beads away from Barracuda, though, in the meantime. Supports have used their ultimates. Junglers have as well. Rotating around this FG. Little pressure mounting from the Highland Ravens on the left side. Phoenix not going to get taken down. Not in a long while, but we'll start to deal a little bit of damage on that side of the map.
Yep, the Tier 2 tower drop, that's a big deal. Highland Ravens could get pulled ahead in the gold lead just because of that tower dropping, really. And it was still a good ultimate, don't get me wrong. You said it yourself, pulled the beads from Barracuda, but it seems like the Camelot Kings are focusing all their damage towards tanks. I mean, Captain Twig is using his ultimate to pull the Magi's off of Hurricane, just because the way that ultimate works. You jump on their head, you're able to use a little bit of CC, and you can still throw them where you want to, even though the bubble goes down. It lasts a long time. Fire Giant getting burned, and Ven's the only one here.
Ven is here, but this is known by the Highland Ravens. Haddix teleports back forward. Fire Giant's down to half. Genetics push, pulled, and sent back, and Hurricane got locked down. Genetics couldn't press buttons for the last 5 seconds of his life. Now the Ravens have picked up where the Camelot Kings left off, but there's an initiation back in. Ven's got the kill on the Twig. Fire with the assist, and Barracuda adds a double. Now it's only the carries for the Camelot Kings. Scream finds a dive, and a 4-kill Fire Giant swing for the Highland Ravens.
What a terrible time to try and find a fight. I mean, Haddix goes and zones the rest of the Kings by himself. Variety and Genetics group up on the Fire Giant knockup. And Yark couldn't spend enough time in the sky. The Highland Ravens win that fight handedly. It's only big man Tings, and there's no way you try and defend this Phoenix. If Tings dies here, they could go for the end, so he's got to stay back and just try and do some poke damage.
Whoa.
What a swing for the Highland Ravens. One bird this early on, and it's not all Scream this time, right? That was the issue in game number 2, was that Bakasura had a lot of that farm. He had a lot of that presence. Very well spread out. Barracuda gets a ton of kills. Sits level 20. This X-Ball's absolutely swinging now.
Sure is. And that's the type of play, Trelly, that happened to the Ravens in Game 2. Now, there's a bit more nuance, a bit more back and forth, but a 4-kill swing this time results in a Fire Giant as well, and everyone gets it with a Phoenix. And so a similar mindset where the game really breaks open on what feels like one grouping of a fight, despite the Camelot Kings maybe feeling like they had the opening thread there. Now the Ravens playing a bit faster. Back to the Pyromancer, or the Primal Fury rather, they go. They got plenty of time, minute and a half. Variety's going to push out the Fire Minion waves, and so you're really setting the stage now. The Fire Minions might not find their way very quickly to the Camelot Kings' right side of the map. So if the Ravens want to siege, they're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. Maybe a Runic Bomb and some gently applied pressure of their own.
Camelot Kings, though, certainly not out of this race. They've got plenty of damage. They've got Wave Clear. They've got Tank Shred, all of which makes for some good defenses, especially if Variety finishes Sigil, a big power spike in this current Vamana build. He's got to get back to base, though. Definitely wants to help his team towards this left side Phoenix, so Variety is going to head back. I'm wondering if Genetics is going to initiate the fight or just stay back and try and see if they can find poke. The issue I find with most of these teams is once they win the defense, they try and chase out of the Phoenix, but the Phoenix is the only place you're safe.
Tings got stunned, but
Barrett just lasered that Phoenix.
Has the shield. You're right. That's enough space. Oh, no. How costly is that from Variety? He's gone down 0-2 now. There's still a tier 2 tower in mid. 30 seconds left on this FG buff. A first FG of the game resulting in 3 Phoenixes is massive for the Highland Ravens. And unfortunately, it's come at the cost of the tanks of the Camelot Kings recently.
Twig?
Pick onto Genetics. Could have been a pick onto Twig. The last of this Phoenix. Should a Runic Bomb get used? Not necessary. And the Ravens completely open up the base of the Camelot Kings. 10,000 gold out of nowhere for the Highland Ravens. And that is the end of the FG buff as we speak. 3 Phoenixes down and a 10,000 gold lead in a game for first seed in the Order Division.
We don't even get to see if Genetics wanted to blink in or try and create some defense because unfortunately Variety killed before he can go into Colossal Fury, and that's the end of the fight. I mean, if you can't get your Vamana ultimate off, you're not going to have any sort of backline damage. Your carries are free casting. I guess the enemy carries are free casting in this case, and the Ravens can do no wrong. Barracuda popped his ult and said, 3-4 auto attacks, I'm just going to laser this Phoenix down, no problem. And now all 3 birds are gone. Usually,
for a fight.
Yeah, usually this net's a fire giant, but the Highland Ravens want some blood.
The Ravens have not wanted to end a game in a conventional way here recently, Yark. Got to use his beads. He'll tumble away. Big man Tings use the Aegis as well. Scream. Take some poke damage in return. The Camelot Kings have survived the initial onslaught. And the timing of the fight might have made sense. Fire Giant spawns right now in a minute away from being enhanced. Enhanced Fire Giant with what will be 2 Phoenixes down. Should be a recipe for an end for the Highland Ravens, but all bets are off after game 2.
Captain Twig hiding at the cooldown buff right now, and Variety's still sticking around. I'm wondering if this is A, to try and go for a fight, or B, trying to go for a sneaky steal. But it's not going to last long. The Camelot Kings have to fight now, or their base is going to get broken into, and it looks like the minions are already pouring through. They have to decide right now, are they going in? Are they looking to scrap?
Fire minions will deal a bit of damage to the Titan. Kings realizing that, dispersing out just a bit, but it's Captain Twig who's gone back. He's now been spotted. Fire Giant not immediately pulled, however, by the Highland Ravens, so Twig will have time to get back over to this side of the map. It's big man Tings holding on to that speed buff. A bit quicker on the Discordia. Captain Twig's got the other. So clearing the minions, yes, great. That's all fine and good, but another wave of minions making their way into your base. Variety's going to have to go back. He has TP, so he can reset here just as well. Runic Bomb in the back pocket of Hurrywind as the Fire Giant begun by the Highland Ravens. It's low, and it's confirmed by the Ravens. Barracuda gets a +1 onto Captain Twig. Deep in the back line, though, is Variety, but he's all on his own. He can't leave the rest of his team. Ravens cleanly EFG. I believe EFG. It's 25 seconds after. So it was EFG and an additional kill. And the right side Phoenix left standing, but Twig still dead for 40. Ravens might be looking for an end, and they're looking for first seed.
It's all on Tings here. I mean, he's got hit at some big CC, a massive ultimate that's not even available. It's all about a good strife to try and keep these birds and that Titan alive. Genetics blinks in.
Genetics blinks in, but I bet he wishes he hadn't, because Venenu's got damage from above. The rest of the Ravens stepping forward. It's going to be miracle defense needed from the Camelot Kings. Variety goes Colossal Fury. Ven backpedals away. Far from easy right now for the Highland Ravens, but they've got damage and they've got health. And the Highland Ravens unseat the Camelot Kings and grab first seed.
I bet they wish they would have done it in 2, but they're just fine getting that 3rd game win. Massive plays throughout the entirety of the Highland Ravens here. Barracuda on the Shibalanke. We called it. Hey, maybe if he goes in split push, gets level 20, he could get a little bit more damage online, make a big impact, and that's exactly what he did.